All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome, new spiders. It's great to see all of you here, and I'm assuming there's a few parents in the audience as well. Welcome to the Business School edition of our New Spider Summer Series. My name is Mickey Quinones. I'm the Dean of the Robbins School, and I'd like to introduce also my partner in crime tonight, who's the most important person that your students are going to work with, Laura Thompson, our Assistant Dean of Undergraduate Student Services. What we want to do tonight is tell you, I know this is a really exciting time. All of you went through the process of applying and getting accepted, and now you're thinking about getting your dorm rooms and what you're going to bring to your dorm rooms. And now it's getting real, right? It's getting real in terms of, well, what are my courses? What are those courses going to be like? How do I register? A little bit of panic ensues. So we're here to calm you down a little bit, tell you about step back. My job is to kind of step back and say, why are you even coming into the Robbins School? Why are you coming to the University of Richmond? Laura's job is to then say, okay, now that registration is going to open in a little bit while, how do you do that? What should you be thinking about? And to remember that this is a 4-year process. You're not trying to graduate in 1 semester. So we're really excited to have you here. And again, congratulations to all the students, all the new spiders for getting in, and we're so excited you're part of our community. We can't wait to see you in person. The campuses, we're open, we're here, and it's a beautiful day today here in Richmond, Virginia. All right, so when I think about the Robbins School, and all of us think about why do we even exist? Why do we even do what we do? If you think about all the challenges and all the opportunities out there from a business perspective, even from societal perspective, we continuously think about our job as that being to prepare you and to inspire you, to get you excited about making a positive impact in the organizations in which you're going to work, the communities in which you're going to live, and society at large. And clearly, there are a number of issues going on that create a lot of interesting opportunities, but also a number of challenges. And what we believe is that the Robbins School is a place, and the University of Richmond is a place in which you can be really, really well prepared to make that positive impact. And how do we do that? So when we think about what are the key pillars that make the Robbins School a special place and allow us to deliver on that promise, one, we focus on excellence in teaching, excellence from our students, excellence in the delivery of curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities. We focus on relevance. Are we teaching what matters? Are we focusing on what matters? Are we giving you the experiences that matter to prepare you for the ever-changing world that you're going to encounter? Impact. What impact are we having on you, our students? What impact are you going to have in the organizations and the communities and society at large? And what impact are we having in terms of the broader academic community as well? Our faculty, our teachers, scholars. We attract faculty members who are very much devoted to our students. We're a very student-centered organization, student-centered school. And so we focus on that. And also we want to create a sense of community. We are a community, after all. We all work together. You're part of this community, and you certainly build and create the community that you want to be in. In fact, when we welcome you into the Robbins School officially in your second semester or your sophomore year, we ask you to commit to the kinds of community that we are and that we strive to be every day in the Robbins School. So we ask our students to declare this pledge here, that we act with integrity, we hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards, we strive for excellence, we're collaborative, constructive, supportive, and inclusive, and we use our skills to positively impact our community, organizations, community, and society. And this is you see a picture there, which we're really excited to do like this again. We did it virtually last year, but we're so excited to have people running around without masks, and that's what it was like the first time we did this declaration ceremony. And so it's really important to us that you understand what we're about. And what makes us special, what makes us different. First of all, we are a world-class large business school, and by large I mean having a lot of faculty, a lot of executives, a lot of alumni that are involved in a very small liberal arts educational institution, university. And so the liberal arts foundation of the business school allows you to see the context in which business operates. I like to tell our students and everyone I talk to about the Robbins School is that business does not exist in a vacuum. Businesses exist within a historical context. As we learned this past year and a half, a biological context. It exists within a social context, psychological context, technological context, and the liberal arts foundation that you're going to be developing and you're going to be focusing on early on in your time here is going to allow you to then, when you take the business school classes, to see how you can then make a difference and understand that context in which business operates. And I think it's important for you to know, as we start getting into discussions about the classes you're going to sign up for, is that your business school education, your business education starts the moment you sign up and you start taking your first year seminar. You take that history class, you take that psychology class. All of those are extremely relevant to understanding various stakeholders and the society at large and the world and the ecological system in which we operate in terms of business. So all of that's important. Our business curriculum, as Laura will explain later, is broad-based. You really get a good grounding in all the disciplines of business. And I think that's really unique. We have lots of experiential learning opportunities. We have a number of executives in residence. We have founders in residence, entrepreneurs in residence. I'm about to appoint our first journalist in residence, and I'll explain that to our group later. And we also have professional development opportunities. We have career camps, career opportunities. We have lots of visits to Wall Street, to Silicon Valley, and everything between. Our students are involved in all kinds of case competitions. Our students are developing new businesses. They're involved in business case competitions. They're working in our community, making an impact in our society here, right here in the Richmond area. So all these experiential learning opportunities are part of your education, and they complement what you do in the classroom and beyond. And as I said earlier, we're very much student-centered. Our focus is always on what impact are we having on our students? Are we creating the best opportunities for our students to develop, to learn, and to grow, and to be able to be ready? I was just in a meeting today with our folks in the communications area, and they were telling us the results of some focus groups that they had with a number of alumni and employers. And one of the things they said is our students are ready, they're job ready on day one. They come in ready to make an impact, and it's hard to distinguish them from MBA students. So it's really, I think, a testament to the quality of the education you're going to receive and the devotion and commitment of our faculty and staff to making that experience really unique for you. All right, I'm going to turn over to Laura to get you a little bit into nuts and bolts, but I just want to make sure that you don't lose sight of the big picture. Why are you here? What is the end result of all of this? What does it mean to get an education from the University of Richmond and from the Robbins School of Business? So Laura, take it away.
Absolutely, you'll be getting an education, and the sort of end result, besides lots of exciting experiences and readiness to take it to a professional level, is that you'll end up with a degree. And if you're a major with the Robbins School, your degree will be this. It'll be a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And if you listen to that, the abbreviation for it is BSBA. So it sounds like an MBA, right? The MBA just at the bachelor's level. And that's, I think, why our students compete really well, because the foundation of this degree is that you do have a broad base across things. So you have applied, and been accepted at a place like Richmond and decided to come to Richmond, I suspect, because you liked the concept of a liberal arts environment with the business school. And so that's very much part of your degree. You're going to be taking general education classes, you're going to be taking business classes, and then you'll have extra classes to take that might relate to a minor, might just be a lot of things that you have an interest in to maybe create a focus. But ultimately, to officially declare, at least in the business school, you have to do a few things. And so I wanted to kind of remind you of what those things are. Let me first let you know that, as we kind of mentioned, that you're not going to be doing all these things in the first semester. That's not at all the case. Most students declare in the business school, declare in the Robbins School of Business in January of their sophomore year. So that would be after 3 full semesters at the university. And these are some of the things that you'll have to have done by that time. You'll have to have completed Econ 101. That is the class called Principles of Microeconomics. You'll have to have completed a calculus course. And that could be Calculus 1, could be Calculus 2, depending on what you placed into. You just have to do one of those. And you have to have completed Accounting 201, which is what we call financial accounting. And those are kind of considered to be sort of in order: the theoretical side of business, the quantitative side of business, and accounting is often referred to as the language of business. So that's why those 3 classes were kind of chosen as sort of your entry ones. You also will declare after you've earned at least 12 units, and that's 12 units from your general ed classes, your first year seminar classes. So that's a combination. It's not just 12 business classes. You have to have earned at least a 2.7 grade point average. And again, that's overall, that's not just your business classes. And we also have you pass what's called an Excel competency exam. Excel, the software that helps you oftentimes make good quantitative decisions and analyze data. That's sort of the basis of it. And so that is one of the things that you're supposed to do as well. And again, most of you all are going to declare in January of your sophomore year. You have to declare before the start of your junior year. So that just kind of sort of gives you sort of some framework of what you're working on. If we sneak and take a peek at the next slide, this would be, when you declare what you want to major in. And for us in the business school, we have 3 majors. They're listed there: the business administration, accounting, or economics business. And then if you're a business administration major, students have to pair it with a concentration. So you can see the list of concentrations that are there. We have 8 of them. And you can sometimes, with good planning, fit in more than one. Some of them do require that you do more than one. For example, business analytics actually requires that you pick a second concentration so that you kind of are an analytical expert in something, or at least a specialist a bit in something. And so you can see the list of things that are there to choose from. And I think that's a pretty comprehensive list, right? But like we mentioned, that you'll be taking a little bit of all of those things in your core classes, and then the concentrations you pick are sort of your specialty. Now, some of you maybe have attended in one of these summer seminars on a program within our School of Arts and Sciences. Some of you might have attended one within our School of Leadership. And so you may be thinking, I like the idea of a major, not in the business school, but maybe a minor in the business school. And so the 2 minors we have business administration or entrepreneurship. And so those are a good thing that you can pair with a non-business major. So if you said, but wait, Laura, I'm interested in entrepreneurship, well then great, we just choose it as one of your concentrations if you're a business major, right? But if you say wanted to be an art history major, but maybe you want to own your gallery someday, then that might be a way for you to do the entrepreneurship minor. Okay, so those are sort of just some of the options that we'll talk about. And I thought that many of you are going to be ready to start thinking about what's coming up soon, right? So if we hop to the next slide, most of you all are registering on Monday morning, July 26th. And a few of you might be registering on that Friday before because of certain situations, but most of us are going to be registering at 9 a.m. on the 26th. And so I think at this time, as we work with students, and not to steal the show from your peer advisor or your academic advisor, but I think the most common question is to say, okay, tell me what classes to take, right? And we can't tell you exactly what classes to take, but I can tell you that you will all have that first class that's listed there, that FYS 100, that stands for the first year seminar. I think there are almost 40 different choices of options for that, and the different titles, different professors. So I would say have a good number, 5 to 10 maybe in your back pocket of topics that you like, and be ready to register for one of those. Everyone will have that on their schedule. Everyone will also have that last thing that's listed, the Wellness 100. That's kind of an introduction to college. It's a fun class. In my past life, I taught that class. We do everything in that class from visit the library, visit the gym, kind of learn lots of different things about how to transition from being a student in high school to being a college student. So those are definitely going to be on everybody's schedule, right? But then the other 3 units that you choose, right? Because you're going to have 4 units. The other 3 units that you choose are truly going to be up to you, right? So oftentimes if somebody's thinking about being business, right? We call you kind of pre-business. As a pre-business student, you might think about doing one of those classes that I mentioned that was one of the first required classes, right? So maybe Econ 101, that microeconomics class, or maybe Calculus 1, the Math 211 class. And then you'll also need 2 other units right? And so here I mentioned 2 liberal arts elective courses or 1 2-unit language course. So if you peeked at languages, you'll notice that some of the ones that are called the intensive classes are actually 2 units. They meet every day of the week. And so if you're taking one of those, you would just take one, like I'll pick on Spanish, 1 Spanish class, but it might be worth 2 units because it's an intensive class. Now, the reason I say those are pre-business classes is because, as Dean Quinones mentioned, we there's a business facet to everything, right? And so any of those classes you take will likely tie into business. Like let's say you had a true interest in something like real estate. I would say in that case, maybe a geography class, maybe an environmental studies class would be a great class to take. I already mentioned art history, so I'll plug art history. Maybe you were interested in finance, and maybe as somebody's financial portfolio, they were going to have art as part of their financial portfolio, and art history class might be something to take. So think kind of more broadly about that. If you're thinking marketing, psychology is a wonderful class, communications, any of those, right? Now, I know some of you are, most of you, if you took advanced placement classes in your senior year, are still waiting on those scores. Some of you, if you took advanced placement classes in junior year, sophomore year, you might already know scores for that. So at least we'll talk about the ones that impact us in the business school, right? If you earned a 3, 4, or 5 on AP Calc, could be AB or BC, you'll get credit for Math 211. If it was AB, you get credit for Math 211. If it was Calc BC, you get credit for Math 211 and 212. If you took AP Micro, if you scored a 5, so you had to go big on that one, top score on that, then you would get credit for Econ 101. And if you scored a 5 on Macro, you'd get credit for Econ 102. So just kind of have an awareness of that. Some of you all also took AP Stats, great class to take for business. We don't, however, use it as a replacement for business statistics. So I noted there that it's not a replacement, but it's a good foundation for a class we call BUAD 202, which is business statistics. And, it's a class you could take as a first year student if there's seats, but most students wait and take that maybe second semester of their freshman year or second semester of sophomore year. So that, those 4 units, kind of keeping that in mind, 4 units plus your wellness, that's sort of where you should be heading. Now, as you can appreciate, a lot of you all as first year students, the 800 plus of you all who are coming into the first year class, not everybody can take the same thing, right? So that's why I say you need to have a variety of choices. I'll be honest with you, probably the most popular time to take a class is going to be 10:30 in the morning. So if you like that idea of 10:30 in the morning, just know that all of your new friends probably like that idea too, right? Like that time too. So make sure you kind of have some variety, be willing to wake up a little earlier, take a class a little later, just so that you can make sure you kind of can have a better chance at getting a seat in one of those. Okay.
Laura, when you're talking about classes, a couple questions. Yes. I want to make sure you address. So one is that Econ 101 class. One of our participants tonight wants to know a little more about that class. Is it a manageable course? What's the course, basically workload in that class?
And well, it's a class that is very much appreciated, that's a class that first year students take. So I think the faculty is very ready to know that a lot of the students in that class are going to be getting used to college and used to college work, used to college writing. We do a lot of, we have some support systems built in for tutors. We do review sessions. And what I would generally say, there's a little bit of calculus in that class. So if you have had calculus in high school, you might feel a little bit more comfort level. If you haven't had calculus in high school, that might be one to kind of wait until you get a little used to, or just know that it might take some extra studying. Sometimes it's an interesting thing, right? At Richmond, where we teach micro first and then macro. And I think it's because for microeconomics, right, it involves kind of how we as humans function with money more on a daily basis. And so I think some of the concepts are familiar, everything from kind of like, why do we have taxes like we have taxes? How do you price certain goods and products and services? So it's something that I think most of the examples used in class are things that we can appreciate, right? And then in macro, where they're talking more about global markets, then that's a little more abstract. But I think by the time you finished in micro, you're ready to go into the macro concepts. So you can't take them both at the same time. That's sometimes a question I get.
Another question is the classes that our students place out of, do they count within the 12 units?
Yes, if you earned the AP credit for it and the AP credit comes in, it'll actually show up as one unit on your transcript. So some of you might, if you did really well in your AP classes and you took a bunch of them, you might potentially walk through the door with as many as 7 units. That's kind of the maximum you can bring in. And you can appreciate, right, that 7 units, it puts you almost at a midpoint of your first year, right? So you've kind of brought in a lot of extra stuff. And if that's the case, that's when we need to be thinking things like, oh, you might be ready to move into higher level classes. You might really be thinking about a major and a minor or some sort of other combination.
Yeah, great. The way I think of it is, interestingly enough, for the audience here, Laura's daughter is an incoming freshman, first year student. My son is going to be a first year student in another university, but so we both are seeing this from the parent side as well. So we totally understand how this looks from your end. It's like, oh my gosh, it seems so confusing. So what we're here to tell you, I do also have a daughter that's a second year college student. So it does get better. She did relax. She did understand the way this all works. So, but in my mind, it's kind of thirds, right? A third of your classes roughly will be your major, a third are roughly going to be your gen ed requirements, and a third roughly are going to be your electives, or if you want to pull together a second major or something like that. So that's kind of roughly the way I think of classes, as kind of 3 chunks of classes. Is that fair? Is that?
Yeah, I always think of it kind of as your gen eds are what you need to take, your majors what you want to take, and then the extras are what you would like to take, kind of. So I think of it kind of that way, right? Yeah.
Good. You want me to go to the next slide?
Sure, we can. I think, yeah, this is the exciting one. This is kind of our end goal, right? So you've had a fabulous education. We've gotten through registering for your first semester and the other 7 semesters, and we get you to graduation where you walk across the stage and get your BSBA degree, the diploma. But I will tell you that, all of this, kind of like Dean Quinones was just saying, can feel a little bit scary right now, looking at the beginning and trying to see the end. But we all kind of pride ourselves on getting you there well, and without losing you. So, we're not going to get you lost along the way. And there are a couple of resources that your peer advisors and your academic advisors will talk to you about. One of them that I like to use is this thing called Grad Tracker. It essentially helps you track to graduation, and it's kind of a little bit like a roadmap. There are some tools in it that you can play with and kind of see if you did combinations of stuff. It's something called a what if feature. The nice thing is you can trust it. You can believe the classes it's telling you that you need. So I can promise we will get you to this picture. Then I wanted to say the next slide is sort of to stop talking about classes for just a tiny bit, right? So I know I've talked about classes as a pre-business student, but probably sometimes the thing that actually makes you more excited about, like, oh, I could see myself doing this, or some of our organizations. And so the little blue box that's there lists our organizations just in the business school alone. And in almost every case, they are for any major on campus could do them. If you're a business minor, you can still join these. And we'll have sort of activities fairs to get you to know it. Most of these organizations also have Instagram pages. Feel welcome to join those already. They'll post things about meetings. great leaders in the business school, and in many cases a lot of their leaders became active in their first semester. So don't feel like you have to wait to declare a major before you can get involved. I think that's sort of what I wanted to say to you about this slide. And some of them, I'll just peek real quickly. You can guess accounting society. That'd be great if you're thinking about accounting. But there's the second one, Alpha Kappa Psi, and the fifth one, Delta Sigma Pi. Both of those are what we call kind of business fraternities, and they're not social fraternities, although there's definitely a social side to them, but it's more like a networking organization. And so that might be something that might be interesting. They do a lot to help our students get professionally ready for internships, kind of, even sort of talking about global events within their meetings to help you as you interview on class, interview for jobs, that kind of thing. But you can see as you look at that list that we have almost one that corresponds to every concentration or every major that we have in the business school. So again, a great opportunity. And I know we've already sort of started with our Q&A, but that's kind of where we've ended. That if you have questions for us, we'd love to try to field those. Between the two of us, we probably have close to 100 years, right? Or three of us, I guess anybody on here, close to 100 years of experience with college students. So see what questions you can stump us with.
There's a question about Max, and I'm going to hold that off for a second, but I do want to ask you, something I failed to mention is that we pride ourselves on a study abroad opportunities. And so I think in the business school, our students, about 60% of our students end up studying abroad. So is there any advice that you have for our students to think about where study abroad fits in? What could they be doing now to help them make that a reality?
Yes. I would say if of the 60% of our students that go abroad, the majority of that 60% are going on semester-long programs, right? Mm-hmm. And the majority of those semester-long programs students choose to do within their junior fall. That just kind of is a natural, I think you've been acclimated enough to campus to feel comfortable leaving it for a little bit of time. But then you still come back and have a significant part, your senior year left and rest of time on campus. The nice thing about the business school is that we have partner schools in 22 different countries. I think 54 schools is our latest count. And so that allows the student to be able to look at around the globe where they might like to go. So I would say that's often a good thing to do early on, is just kind of peek and think about the different countries and listen to, as you meet upperclassmen, listen to where they went, listen to how their experience was, and kind of be thinking about some of the countries, because when you apply, you do to study abroad, you do have to rank your choices, and your choices are often country driven. So I think it's helpful to kind of have an idea what continent, what countries, that kind of thing. The nice thing about partner schools is that our students often take the same classes abroad that they would take here at the university. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to add any time to degree. If anything, it's supposed to kind of just fit. So you're kind of just doing it as if you were here, which makes it a nice, easy kind of thing to advise and to plan, and it works well.
Yeah, and we're also working on, we have a few international experiences that are not semester longs, and we're obviously always looking to expand those. So even if you don't want to go for a semester, there may be summer things, whether it be an internship or a summer experience, or even as part of a class where we'll go for a week or something like that. So, all right, so there's a question about bringing a Mac, and I laugh because this is something that I can answer how I see it versus how our analytics and operations faculty might see it. I am a Mac person. When I look around at our students, I would say, I don't know what you think, Laura, but my guess is 80% of our students are Mac users, or would you put it lower than that? 60%, maybe 70%?
I don't know the exact percentage. I do know as we wander around the business school and see laptop lids open, there are a decent number of Macs among them. Yes.
So what I will say about this question, and the reason it's a little tricky, is that there's a couple of pieces of software that our analytics faculty use. For example, Microsoft Access, that's not available for a Mac. And so you have to, if you want to run it on your own computer, you have to run emulation, which works on all the Intel-based Macs. But now that Macs have gone to the M1 chip, it's unclear yet. There's not an emulation, but we have computer labs and access to the computers for you to do those specific things. So a lot of our students come through with a Mac. They do great. It's not a big issue. Whether in the future we try to standardize that, I mean, who knows? But if you already have a Mac, you don't need to get a new computer. If you haven't bought a new computer, something like I said, my very first computer was an Apple IIe back in 1978, and I've been an Apple fanatic ever since. So I have to answer that in a way. All right, another question for you, Laura. So you work with a lot of our students in registration, especially at this time. What do you see as the most common concern, misconception, thing that you kind of have to straighten out in our new students or students thinking as far as registration or thinking about their career?
I think sometimes students, I mentioned that tool called the Grad Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, the general education courses list at the top. And so I think students think they're supposed to sort of go in order, and those are at the top. So that's what you're supposed to do first. And I actually say you can take a general education course even as a senior, so that to kind of, I think to use your beginning semesters to help you make decisions is a better use of your classes than maybe to feel like you've got to just straight plow through that list. So that's what I try, if there's any indecision about what do I think I want to do, then to say like, well, let's use some classes to check off the list, as opposed to, I don't know, if you're not going to be a history major, then maybe let's wait and take that history gen ed in your sophomore year rather than your freshman year, something like that, right? I think that's a bit of advice that I feel like is consistently said.
All right, a couple of questions here. I'll put a little bit of context before I ask you the first question, and that is that one of the advantages and what we pride ourselves in is a close relationship between our faculty and our students. Our faculty get to know our students. They, in fact, when we did a senior survey and asked them to reflect on what they remember most and what meant the most to them as they left the university, the relationship with their faculty members, number one. Number two was Lou's, our dining area there in the business school, but number one. And I say that to mean our classes are small. Our largest class is around 25 students. So when I said at the very beginning, a large business school, what I meant is we have a lot of faculty because we want to stay to that small class size. All of that to say, the first question is, do we have enough sections of Econ 101 for all first-year students to take in their first semester? And the answer is no, right?
No,
we don't
which
want
is
to
why
have...
I said that thing about with 800 of you, not
Exactly.
800 of you cannot take the same class at the same time. That's not, if you wanted that to happen, you would have chosen a big state school that might have had a big lecture hall that held, hundreds of students in it, right?
Yeah.
We're constrained by number of chairs in classes, and constrained by the size that we intentionally built our building, right? Even when the building behind you, the wing that's over your left shoulder. Yes, the left, I think that's your left. That wing, even when we built that wing, when we had a chance, if we wanted to build bigger classes, that was the decision that no, we didn't. And I think that's consistent in the way that we plan our classes, professors teach their classes and that kind of thing. So while it might make you a little grumpy when you can't get that econ section at 10:30, you'll benefit from it in the long run.
And as it is, we have between tenure track full-time faculty, which is around 70, and visiting faculty and instructors, we're close to about 80 or 90 faculty members. So you will not see in a university of 3,200 students, a business school of that size, and obviously, so we pride ourselves in that. All right, is there a specific FYS course to take that involves business related education?
I happened again to be just last night on this topic, and not really. There's one of the, I think a psychology class has to do with capitalism. There's some there's one of the classes we were talking about that has to do with food, that would have to do kind of with some, there's obviously economic impacts with food. So I think, I guess that's the point of that. There's a business side to everything,
That's right.
and so that's, I think, what we'll see, the concept. There's one of the classes that's like, why do we build? Sort of, you would think it's a class on urban development. Well, cities happen because of economic centralization, right? So there's a business side to everything.
Well, even think about the big topic of the day in most businesses, including our own school, is working from home, and people who worked remotely and now are rethinking their lives. I mean, so all of that has to do with, human striving, human desires, and human values, and ways of being, ways of interacting, all of that. So the way I would answer that question is all the FYS classes are probably related to business in some way or another. I'm going to be facilitating a discussion for the chamber on Thursday, where the discussion is corporations' commitments to and desire to address the racial wealth gap, diversity, equity, and inclusion in our communities, and be able to tap into the entire variety of talent that exists in most. And those are things that you will study, for example, in a sociology class, to really understand the dynamics and how we got to where we are, and some of the issues that that organizations and businesses are having to deal with on a daily basis. And if you ask me as dean of the business school, what are some of the most challenging and common issues that I deal with? Are human issues. Yes, we talk about technology, or we'll talk about this, but they're oftentimes, how do we work together? What are our goals? And somebody's wanting this, somebody's wanting that. How do I facilitate all of that? So psychology is very important in all of that. So I would say everything you're going to take has some relevance to how businesses operate within the biological, social, ecological world. So
I know there's that one you mentioned about the psychology. There's one that Dr. Allison's teaching called the FYS, called Heroes and Villains, right? And you think about how oftentimes in companies, we want companies to be a hero, right? And you also perceive companies sometimes as villains. So I think that'll be interesting if a business student takes that class, to see if Dr. Allison will let them take anything from kind of more of a corporate standpoint,
Okay.
So.
All right. So great new question here about the Robin Speaker Series. So let me, so can you talk a bit about the speaker series, how first years get involved, and can you speak a bit on interdisciplinary majors with Jepson, arts and sciences, and how actionable that is if you're not coming in with a lot of AP? So let's separate those two. So the executive speaker series, our job and our goal is always to bring, interesting, thought-provoking speakers that expand your perspective, that give you connections to different aspects. For example, we had the Chief Diversity Officer from Pixar come last year and speak to our students, and talk about the blending between liberal arts and a business whose job it is, whose business is in storytelling and telling the story of, whose story are you telling? What's the nature of the audience that you're telling a story? So those are the kinds of speakers. We bring in, finance oriented, marketing oriented. We had someone for the Pew Research Center. So the students are invited to come to those. They come to those speaker series. We also have, for every speaker, a forum between 4:30 and 5:30. It's a small group of students, about 25 to 30 students get invited to that. Oftentimes we're looking for volunteers, we're looking for people who are interested in that topic, and they have a one-on-one unscripted conversation with the speaker prior to the main event, which happens from 6 to 7. So yes, our speaker series is accessible to our students. So we'd love for you all to attend as often as possible. All right, what about the double? I guess the way I'm reading this question is really double majoring is what they're asking. How easy is it to double major with Jepson and A&S?
With Jepson and A&S, yeah, I feel like my expertise is more with Jepson and business, or A&S and business. I don't want to necessarily speak.
Oh, no, I think each one, like business and Jepson and business and A&S, yeah.
I think that Jepson School of Leadership and Business were both big majors, but every year of your about 800, right? Each class is about 800. We probably have about 10 students that overlap being double majors with Jepson and business. So with the leadership and business. So, 10 out of 800, it's a decent number to tell you it's doable, right? There's also combinations sometimes of majors and minors. When we added the entrepreneurship minor, a lot of Jepson majors decided that was something that they thought was interesting. So yeah, I would say with good planning, it's very doable. I'll leave it at that.
Didn't we have a Smith student that was finance and physics? Am I wrong about that? I
We
remember we
usually, I mean,
traveled.
if you know what, I've done all those like kind of gyrations of who, combinations, and it pretty much always, somebody will walk in and say, I need a business and a theater major, and boom, we can supply one, right? There's somebody that's in that list that's got that combination. So it always.
What about Gabby? She was dance,
Yes.
business, and wasn't she Spanish or?
I remember her with the dance, sometimes
Yeah.
like that was one that we hadn't had for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with good planning, it's doable.
Okay. The question here on how often we have speakers. We try to have 3 to 4 per semester. In fact, since you all showed up tonight, I'll give you a little preview of our first speaker that we just lined up. I just hammered down the date. Is September 8th. It's going to be the general counsel for Pfizer, who's going to tell us the inside story of the vaccine development, and sort of from a business perspective, from an inside organizational perspective. So I'm really excited about that. And we got others in the works. So, all right. Any other questions? Please put them up. What else can I ask you? When you think about students in their first semester, and I guess we can think about our own children, yours, I guess, is about to start, and I had one that goes through a year, but her first semester and first year was very unusual as COVID in her school. But what would you say are the biggest adjustment challenges that our students have if they try to make that transition?
I think sometimes, and this might sound simplified, but I think it's just figuring out how to handle your time differently, because in high school, all your classes were mostly like back to back to back, right? And in college, even with the best laid schedule, it might be all over the place, right? And so when you've got that extra 2 hours in between classes, trying to figure out, with intentionality, is that when I want to eat? Is that when I want to go maybe work out at the gym? Is that when I just want to have some quiet reading time, meditation time on the lawn someplace? And so I think to sort of take your schedule will be very obvious when your classes are, but even look at those time blocks and make decisions about what you want to do in that time. Nap time, eating time, working out time, friend time, social time, like that kind of thing. I'd say that's what I think is the challenge, to realize that you kind of need to be intentional with that.
It's interesting when I've spoken to groups of prospective students, and even thinking about my own kids as they gone to college and are thinking about college, the number one concern that I've been able to discern, and this isn't what I asked you, this is another issue, is will I fit in? Will I find a friend? And I'm saying that because you're not the only one thinking this. All of you are thinking this. So what does that mean for you as an incoming student? Is everyone's looking to connect. So you be open to connecting, because everyone is thinking the same thing. And so you're not alone. And if you have any kind of concerns about will I fit in, will I see a friend, will I make friends? Everybody's thinking that, and they do. And it's a two-way street, right? Be open to meeting people, and they're going to be open to you as well. So somebody was asking about FYS courses, although I see that that was asked. Do FYS courses count for the same credit as any other course? Yep, they're a 1-unit course. Are there a certain number of these that you must take?
The FYS, they're the 2 classes. The first year experience, you take one in the fall and one in the spring. And they're not like, you don't stick with the same professor, you choose a different professor. Sometimes that's different. In high school, you had the class for all year a lot of times, right? And so in college, unless you maybe have, say, a language class where you carry from that professor to the next, more than likely, you're always going to have different professors.
Yeah. I guess the other soapbox I'll get in is some advice I try to give my own children. And my job as a dean, your job as assistant dean, and our job as faculty and others is to create opportunities and an array of experiences that students can partake of. It's your job to show up and partake in them as students. And so I would say, just get out there. When we have a speaker, come hear that speaker. When there's a speaker in your class, go talk to them afterwards. When there's a club that's opening and having some sort of activity, go to that, because you never know. You know, a lot of students are often trying to figure out, well, if I think about my son, for instance, it's not clear to him what the array of jobs are out there. How does he find a career? And I'd say, you know, a lot of us found our way in different, right? Life is not linear. And it really is helpful to listen to others' story and how they got to where they are. And that is our job for you all, students, to try to present as many of those stories to you. And some of those might inspire you to say, okay, yeah, I see how they got there, or maybe I'll find a different path, because oftentimes it's a little scary to think, well, how do I get to do X? Or what does it mean to be X? What is X and what is Y? So what are those different opportunities that are out there? So we array this great, I think it was one of our other colleagues, that maybe it was you, Laura, that says, we array this great buffet in front of our students of opportunities, and it's your job to kind of step up and, you know, fix a plate.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice on that?
I think that, you know, how there is also that FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out. And so I often think with that, be okay to not have FOMO about everything, right? You cannot go to everything. You can't go to all our speakers.
That's
you can't
great
go
point.
join
Great
all our
point.
clubs. You can't take every class we offer. So don't think that you're missing out. You know, you're choosing things that are good for you, right?
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we have a few more minutes. Any open questions?
I'll peek. I haven't been doing a good job of looking
No,
at
that's
any
okay. I've
chats,
been
so
monitoring them.
you've
We've
been amazing
answered all
at
the
it.
questions, and the question about the first year seminars is out there. Any other thoughts on, so we have an event where you'll learn about all the different student groups. You know, another thing that, one of the other reasons that I hope that you realize is a benefit of coming to a school like U of R is the size. It's big enough where you won't know everyone or see everyone, but it's small enough where everything's accessible. And so, you know, being able to access faculty, these events, clubs, I think is really, really important. So we'll have an event where you'll get to meet representative students from all of the student clubs, and you'll have lots of different opportunities like that. We have executives in residence, which I mentioned briefly. These are individuals that are out there in the community, have either had a very long and illustrious career in a particular area, or currently doing something in an organization, who want to help our students. They want to make themselves successful, to mentor, to give advice, to help you reflect on things. So I would say, make sure you take advantage of and connect with one of our executives and entrepreneurs in residence or founders in residence. What other resource do you think our students oftentimes miss out on that they could have or should have? Or I know you mentioned FOMO, so I get that. So I don't want to sound like make sure you do everything, but what would you say?
I think, you know, how you mentioned within the speaker series, and I saw that Michelle had asked a question about the speaker series, but so I think, you know, this going and listening to a speaker is kind of is a good passive way to kind of assess, like, what do I like, what do I not like? But that round table that you mentioned, the thing that we do that, you know, is for a select group of students before, when the speaker, that I think that's something that is a really kind of cool thing, to get sort of a really up close connection to somebody who's usually, you know, an impressive person, right? I think that's something that not as many of our students take advantage of. So if that's something, you know, if you're listening and that's something that interests you, you can reach out to us and we can tell you kind of how to get connected with that. You know, I know a lot of students who are coming in this class seem like they have a real interest in sort of politics and stuff like that. And so, you know, to have somebody who's an attorney, right, legal counsel for Pfizer, I think if you have that interest, he'll be a good person to meet and talk to you about that, you know, to see where law and business intersect and some of those things, the ethics, yeah.
Okay. Here's another question. Let's say for some reason you cannot get into and your registration is full for Econ 101 for first semester. Can you still get involved in the organization and groups you listed previously? Yeah, there's no connection between classes and clubs. Yeah. Yes.
And then, you know, then you choose a class that somebody else will take in a different semester, and then you'll take Econ 101 in the spring. So it's kind, you know, I say that it's kind of like we all sort of are making our own puzzle, and the pieces might fit a little differently, but at the end, you've got a pretty picture and you've got a degree, and that will work. I promise.
And as far as getting involved in the groups as a prerequisite to, I guess the way if I read between the lines in this question, they're looking at it as if I'm not a pre-business major until I take one of the pre-business classes, and that's not at all. No, we are, welcoming. The only club or group that you saw listed up there that has any kind of restriction like that would be the SMIF, the Student Management Investment Fund. Those are seniors who are selected and they have to take a certain investment class, and so that's the only one, and that's much later in your career. But all the others, no, come one, come all. I think, in fact, if I had to give any sort of one piece of advice, is just come in with your curiosity and your desire to learn and to meet other people and be curious about them. I mean, how great that you're going to come to our beautiful campus in Richmond with all these, excellent students just like you who have such interesting backgrounds. I mean, think about what you can learn and how many cool people you get to meet. So just be open to that. Just be curious about people in your dorm room and the dining hall and your classes. If you see somebody you don't know, go talk to them. Say, hey, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. I think that's just really exciting because, yes, it sounds like a long time, but 4 years can go very quickly. So if you're not, just make sure that you're making the most of it in that way. All right. Well, we have a few more minutes. If there's no other question, I don't know if we want to stop or if you want to keep talking. I don't know if you have any other advice, Laura.
If I could, since we've had a decent number of registration questions, there is the piece about this thing called the waitlist that maybe your peer advisors talked about, or your academic advisor. And in the business school, at least, all of our classes, we use the waitlist feature. And so if a class fills, like let's pick on Econ 101, we're kind of picking on it tonight. So let's pick on Econ 101. If Econ 101 fills, then there's a wait list attached to that class that has 10 seats on it. And so you can register your name to up to 4 wait lists. So you could choose 4 different sections a different time of Econ 101 and do that. Or you could choose 1 wait list for Econ 101 and 1 for an FYS class and 1 for a psychology class or something like that, right? So the way the wait list works is that if someone drops a seat, then the first person on the wait list will get an email to their Richmond email, right? So your richmond.edu email. And so I would encourage you, first of all, to be tied in with that Richmond email around registration time, right? So, either whether you've got it forwarded to your Gmail, your home account, Gmail, whatever, or you're checking it often, or you have a notification set up on your phone, just something so that if you get that notice, you can accept the class, right? And so you have 12 hours from the time you're notified about a wait list to accept it. And so, you don't want to be kicking yourself like, oh, I had a chance to get in that different section and I missed my opportunity, right? So that's a little bit of sort of insider information that I'll give you. And the wait list also is a good way for us as the university to be able to see, are students already registered in another class and maybe they're just trying to take a class at a different time, or is there really extra demand for a certain thing? And that might be where we'll try to say, okay, for next semester we need more sections of this because we know students are going to take it the next semester. So it helps us a little bit kind of with enrollment management. So that's just sort of to give you sort of a logistics kind of thing. That's what the wait list is good for.
All right, so there's one more question, and maybe we'll end on this one because it's an excellent question. Is there any help for the students' preparation of the Excel competency exam?
On our webpage, our Robin School webpage, there's if you even just go to the Richmond website and type in Excel competency, I think it takes you straight to that page. There are lists, sort of bullets of the topics that are covered for the Excel exam. There are you can watch different workshops that have been given. You can watch different little videos on the different topics that correspond to the topics. So there's all that out there that you can kind of do on your own, right? There is also a class that we currently offer called Software Tools that you can take that sort of prepares you in that sense. That's an extra class. It's a half unit class, which means it meets once a week. for the semester, but it's not required. So it'd be sort of if the student wanted to. Anyway, so yeah, I would say those are the sort of the resources that are available now. Oh, and also, actually, let me give another plug for another office on campus. We have this thing called the TLC, which stands for the Technology Learning Center. And the Technology Learning Center, it's in the library, on the second floor of the library. And you can go, and there are staff members, peer tutors who can kind of help you with all those things. I happen to be one of those who sometimes you get a little stressed by new technology. And so if I go to the TLC, somebody there is very nice and will help me. So that might be another thing.
Get some TLC.
Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it is TLC, comforting for me to get help, for somebody to kind of walk me through.
Excellent. So we can plug our new wellness center as well, which I think
oh, you mean if it stresses me out too much?
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and it just speaks to the number of resources and opportunities and ways that, our job and our focus is to help you succeed and to help you thrive while you're here. So I think everyone here is committed to your success. So I think you should never feel like you should never feel stuck. You should always feel like you can go talk to someone, that there are people out there who will listen, who will help you and help you navigate this. This is just really, really important time in your life. You're transitioning from high school into adulthood, in your careers. And so it's a great time for exploration, but it's also a great time of uncertainty. So that's why we do what we do, because we love being in an environment where people are learning and people are asking questions and people are exploring new things. And I think, Laura, if I want to speak for you, I guess I shouldn't, but I think that's one thing that holds us all together at the university, is that we have a love for learning, love for students, and the desire to help make a difference in people's lives. I know Laura gets, students always come back and they want to go see Laura, and she has a big impact on their lives. And, it's probably been 30 years as a professor and now as a dean, getting emails and notes back from students that you've known from years ago, that class you taught or that conversation we had a big impact on my life. That's what we live for. And that's what you're coming into. So we can't wait to see you on campus. And I know you're going to just, this will be your home, and it'll feel like home, and make sure that good luck with registration and enjoy the rest of your summer. You still have a little bit of time before you're ready to come to classes. Any parting words, Laura?
No, just thank you for joining us tonight. And like you said, look forward to seeing you in person.
Okay.